Good evening, everybody. We'll get started here right away. Hope everyone's doing well on this beautiful Thursday evening. 30 degrees here in Edmonton. Hopefully it's nice and sunny where you're at as well. All right, so let me get things organized. All right, day 4. So just a recap of yesterday, what did we talk about? For anyone who missed yesterday, you can go back into the Facebook group and look at the videos. All the videos are in there from the past 3 days. Yesterday, we walked through how you can actually do 2 deals a year and potentially make $10,000 a month. And also how to screen for tenant buyers if you're looking to use the exit strategy of rent to own. Now, those included having an application fee, which is basically the credit coach's fee of $500. That's the first hurdle that really weeds out a lot of potential time wasters and tire kickers, because if the individuals are not willing to invest $500 in themselves to hire a credit coach to fix their problem, not somebody you want to do business with. The mortgage broker, sending the information off to them, they're going to give you that maximum dollar value of a home that your tenant buyer can afford. And the credit coach is going to advise you how long of a term the individual needs in order to fix their credit issues. So now if you're going to structure a rent own, you know how long of a term you're going to need with the homeowner, as well as what the maximum price point of the home is that these individuals could qualify to buy based on their information today. So you want to make sure that you're putting them in a home that is below that maximum dollar value. Remember, you're going to structure it and set it up so that there is some potential appreciation that you'll take advantage of in the future. All right, so homework just from the previous days, create an ad for attracting homeowners. I had one individual who ran their ad by me, and I helped and edited it, and they're going to start posting it today. Other than that, I'm not sure if anyone had a chance to place their ads or write an ad and actually start running them, but if not, you have till the end of this week if you want me to take a look at an ad and help you out with it, and post it on Kijiji or Craigslist or social groups, anywhere you can do it for free, and then start fielding calls. All right, so this is, I had part of this yesterday, but we didn't finish it. So I promised you today I'd walk you through calculating the profit in a sandwich lease. And if you recall from yesterday, a sandwich lease is you have the homeowner here that you have arrangements with, you have the tenant buyer here, and you see my big head in the middle, that's the meat in the middle, the meathead in the middle. So now you've got a sandwich, two sides and some meat in the middle. So that's why it's not why they call it a sandwich lease, but if you think about it that way, that's what a sandwich lease is. You have a lease option over here, you have a lease option over here, and you're the person in the middle that's coordinating the entire thing. So I'm just going to walk you through calculating the profit in lease option. So in our example, we had the fair market rent of a property was $1,800. The fair market value was $380,000. So through negotiations, we're renting it for $1,600 a month. Purchase price $360,000. 3-year term. We're going to be responsible for repairs and maintenance, or the tenants will be responsible for repairs and maintenance up to $1,000. And we're going to give the homeowner an initial option of $100. So those 5 things, those are the 5 key numbers that you need to negotiate in any deal with the homeowner. Excuse me, rent, purchase price, the term, the repair maintenance value, and how much initial option you're going to give the individual. So those are the 5 key things that you're always going to be negotiating with the homeowner. So like I said, we're going to plug these in, and we're going to show how much you can make on a rent to own using the sandwich lease options. So I just need to pull up one of my spreadsheets, and one. There we go. So we said it was a 36-month term. So we'll put in 36 months, address. We also said we're going to give the homeowner $100. And the rent we were going to pay the homeowner was $1,600. We said fair market rent was going to be $1,800. And we're going to buy the property from the homeowner at $360,000 because we said the property was valued at $380,000 today. Okay, so now we're going to market for a tenant buyer. So now we need to determine what price points we're going to ask the tenant buyer for. So a good rule of thumb, when it comes to the initial option or down payment with the tenant buyer, I'm usually looking for 3% of the purchase price of the home. So we said the home is fair market value is $380,000 today. So, but it's a 3-year term, so we're gonna factor in some modest appreciation, hoping that the price point will actually raise. So I'm gonna use a modest appreciation, and the appreciation is basically you just take that magic 8-ball, shake it up a little bit, and look to see what number shows up. But you can use some very logical methods for coming up with appreciation. You can look at historical data from CMHC for your area to see what the past appreciation has been. Look forward to see what kind of infrastructure projects are going on in the community and what kinds of things will impact it. But for this example, I'm going to use 3.33% a year, or very simply, I'm just going to take the fair market value of $380,000, and I'm going to add 10% on top of that, which is $38,000. So that means the end purchase price will be $418,000. Okay. So if you're wondered how I got that number, remember fair market value is $380,000. And then I just added 10%. So 3.33% for every year, and there's 3 years. So simple math is just add 10% to the 380, gives you 418. So that's going to be the purchase price for the tenant coming into the property. Okay. So we said that fair market rent for the property is $1,800, so we're going to charge $1,800. Now, if you live in a province where you have to charge the exact same thing, I will show you in just a second how you'd actually do that one. But this one here, we're doing it if you're living in a province where you can pay the owner a different rent than you actually collect. Okay. So the end purchase price is $418,000. And I said, the minimum I'll accept for a down payment is 3%. So that is just over 12,000. So I'm going to say 12,500. So in here, I'm going to put 12,500 that we're going to collect from the tenant for the initial down payment. That's what I want my potential tenants to have is 12,500. You can see I paid the owner $100 right there. Paying the owner $1,600. We're going to get fair market rent of $1,800. Now we also know that this 12,500 is not 5%. Obviously, it's 3%. So this has a lovely handy dandy calculator down here that tells me the tenant needs to pay a minimum of $233.33 a month for 36 months in order to get to the 5%. So if we were to put $250 in here, because I like to the nearest $25 myself. Whoops, that's the wrong place. It goes down here. There we go, $250. You can see down on the right-hand side that at the end, the tenant's going to have 5.14%. down payment total. Okay, so they're going to pay this $1,800 a month, plus they're going to give a second check of $250 a month. So in total, the tenant is going to pay $2,050 a month. Out of that $2,050 a month, you're going to give the homeowner $1,600, meaning you get to keep $450 a month cash flow. Initially, they paid $12,500 up front. You gave $100 to the homeowner, so you get to keep the $12,400 difference there. Okay. Now, when the way that I structure these with the homeowner is I don't charge them a property management fee off the rent, so I'm not going to take any money off the rent. But I do charge them a property management fee, but I only collect it if and only if I sell the home at the end. So if the home doesn't sell at the end, I don't get to collect any money for, and that's what I used to tell the homeowners is I hate working 3 years for free. So it's a good incentive for me to, make sure I put somebody in there that's going to buy the home. So typically I charge $200 a month, but remember that money does not come off the rent. It actually comes off the purchase price if and only if the house is sold. If the house isn't sold, I don't get to pocket this $7,200. Okay? So this is a typical sandwich lease option where we only ever invested the $100 for the property, but yet we're going to make $63,400 on this deal. Okay, so this is how you would set up and structure a sandwich lease option, because we didn't have to buy the property. There's no purchase involved in the property. We're just leasing it with the option to buy from the homeowner, leasing it for $1,600, option to buy it $360,000, and then we lease it to a tenant for $1,800 and give them the option to buy it $418, but they have to have $12,500 up front, and then they pay another $250 a month every single month. That gets added to the $12,500. So at the end, they have a 5.14% down payment, which we've helped them build up a $21,500 down payment to purchase the home. Okay. Now in the provinces like Ontario and Manitoba, where the rent that you pay the owner has to be the same as the rent that you collect from the tenant. So in here, you would put $1,600. Now this one, actually, you're not going to be able to, this spreadsheet doesn't calculate it. It won't calculate it. But what you would do is in the option contract, when it's like this, the option contract says that the tenant is going to pay $250 a month. Okay, so they have to pay $250 a month. And of that $250, you're going to credit the whole thing to their down payment. Now, in this scenario, when this has to be the same, the option contract now says the tenant has to pay an extra $450 a month. So you'd add, so there'd be $450 a month. However, just because they're paying $450, you're not going to credit all of that to their down payment. You're only going to credit $250 towards their down payment. Okay? So in the end, you're still going to make the same amount of money. You're still going to make the $63,400, but it's just how you have to place the numbers on the two different contracts. You would have to change the 1,800 to 1,600 and change the 250 to 200. And I'm quite sure a lot of you, I lost a lot of you and you're confused on this, but I'll upload a PDF of this worksheet so you can take copies of it. And it basically tells you what to do. You've got minuses, you've got multiplication, you've got pluses, what you're supposed to do. And you can just use it and play around with it. Just on the PDF, write some numbers in it and do some calculations for yourself. Sheldon asks, so the $12,500 option consideration is part of the tenant down payment to buy the house after 3 years? Yeah, Sheldon. So this $12,500 plus the $250 a month times 36 months is $9,000. So at the end of the 3 years, you provide the documentation to the bank. You're just providing the documentation. You don't have to provide the money. You just have to prove to the bank and the lenders. And I do that with a very simple spreadsheet. I just show on the spreadsheet how much they paid and how much was allocated towards the down payment. You just prove that they've actually paid this up front in every single month, and provide that documentation along with the contracts to the mortgage broker. And it just, that's how you show that they've paid the down payment. Now there has to be backup, and we preach to the tenants that, obviously, however we get the money, if we're doing an automatic withdrawal from their account, we would have paper copies or be able to print off the bank statements to prove to the bank, if we had to, all 36 months, highlighting the payments coming from the tenant. We can actually do that to back it up. And the tenant could do it on their side, print off their bank statements for 36 months, highlighting the money coming out of their account. So if it had to go to that point, and it's very rare it ever gets to that point, but if it had to, you have all the actual paper backup of all of the money being transferred from the tenant's bank account to our bank account, and we can show it on the bank statements themselves. So Sanjay, have you ever come across a seller who said, I can find a tenant buyer myself, why should I pay you? Because this is a very specialized industry, and Mr. and Mrs. Seller, if you try to structure this yourself, I guarantee you're going to do it wrong. And if the tenant buyer defaults or takes you to court, they will win, because there's very few lawyers in the country that know how to do this. And the problem is the lawyers don't understand what the banks require. They only understand the law. Remember, there's 4 aspects to the contracts. You get the Resident Tenancy Act. Now, the lawyers would understand that. You've got the Property Acts and the legal stuff. The lawyers would understand that. The requirements by the mortgage insurers, they're not going to understand that. They're not going to know what those requirements are, what those mortgage insurers require to have in the contracts. They're not going to know that unless they've been doing this consistently or doing this regularly. And what the banks require, what the lenders require, they're not going to know what those are to do this. And the homeowner is not going to know how to actually structure this properly, because it has to be structured properly too. So I tell them, hey, Mr. Homeowner, if you think you can do this yourself and actually do it right, all the power to you. But there's a good chance that you're going to do it wrong. And when you get sued, when the person sues you, it's not going to be very good for you. So that's what I'd say. And it's very rare that the homeowner has a tenant buyer already lined up. Why are they even calling you then? So the question is, why would they even call you if they're going to do it themselves? It doesn't make any sense. So, but I guess there's a lot of people out there that don't make any sense. So that is how you would structure a sandwich lease option, or show how the profit. You can see in this deal, we'd make $63,400. What we're going to go through next is I'll show you just a lot of you are probably questioning, well, how could you even get the rent for 1,600, and how could you even get the property for 360,000? That's what I'm going to show you next, is how you can actually do that. Get the property below fair market value and still show the homeowner that they're going to make more money working with you. So let me stop share there. Go back here. All right. Did that. So presenting and negotiating. So the goal obviously is to present to the homeowner to get the yes. So in meeting with the homeowner, to get the house at the best possible price and terms that work for both you and the homeowner. Obviously, it has to work for the homeowner, and we're not out there to take advantage of any homeowner, but we're going to realistically show them that if they work with us, they're going to make more money. But at the same time, you have to get a deal too. Otherwise, it's not worth it to you to even bother doing this. So when you actually arrive at the home, I don't know if there's doing any home meetings right now or not, but this was the case when you could actually go to people's houses. Obviously, always be smiling, greet them by name. I always handed them, as soon as they opened the door, my arm was extended with my business card. Say, hey, and John with I Offer Solutions. I'd hand them my business card, just obviously that professionalism. Oh, Chris, sorry, I just saw there's another message. What if the potential tenant doesn't have 12,500 and wants a zero down option? Ask them to go talk to somebody else. Ask them if they have anything that they own outright that is worth anything at all. So maybe they own a muscle car and you can take that on trade. Maybe they own gold bullion or something. They have something of value, obviously, but then you're in a situation where you have to be like Rick or Corey or the old man from Pawn Stars. You're not going to give them full retail value. You have to give them the Pawn Star value, right? So because you have to actually go out and turn that item into cash for yourself. But if they're looking for a zero down option, if they have actually a really good job and really good credit, they just don't have any cash, then there are some mortgage brokers that can get them into a house for zero down. But if they have bad credit, no cash, just nobody you want to deal with. Like, they're just not anybody you want to deal with. You're just going to waste your time. But if they have a really good job and they make a lot of money and they just don't have any cash, well, they may have some spending issues, which could be a problem in the future, but I mean, you have to dig a little bit deeper, but typically I don't work with anybody that has no money. I tried doing that early on and you just get burnt all the time. So if you don't have the money, come back and see me when you have the money. Or if they have it in RSPs, that still can't help you. It's going to help them when they go to buy the house, but it doesn't help you because you don't get any of that money up front. And also, they're not committing the RSPs until they actually buy the place and get the mortgage. So there's no risk to them at all. So then it just becomes another rental situation. All right, so continuing on, as you're walking in the home, always just scan around, look for something that you might have in common, because you want to have a general conversation, a point of interest, create some general chit chat, get them to know you, like you, and trust you pretty quickly. And then get the owner to take you on the tour, because you really want to see the condition of the property. Is it dated? Is it wore down? Does it show well? Or, does it need a major cleaning with the entire place needs to be repainted and upgraded? Like, is it going to be something that you can fill quickly? Because let's face it, just because it's a rent to own, the majority of your tenant buyers want move-in ready. So unless you are a little bit of a handyman and you don't mind, you know, getting something and repainting the entire place and doing some stuff up front. But if you're going to do that, you definitely want to get money off the purchase price from the homeowner. So, but places that don't show well or they're dated, it's a lot harder to find good quality tenant buyers for. All right, so when you're presenting to the homeowner, you want to make sure you're comparing apples to apples. And what I mean by that is, since there's different time frames involved and different scenarios, you want to make sure that the focus, the focus on the money part is how much they actually put in their pocket. That's the key, because you can't compare selling prices because you got different time frames and things like that. So you got to keep the focus on when it's all said and done, the dust settles and everything's paid, how much money do you put in your pocket? So you find out what's most important to them in the process. Is it how much they sell, how much you're going to sell the house for, how much they put in their pocket when it's all said and done? You know, do they want any involvement in the process, some little or none? Yeah, and you always want to keep reverting it back to just net profit, like how much you put in your pocket at the end of the day. Worry less about the actual selling price, but more about how much money do you put in your pocket at the end of the day. So some of the homeowner options that they have available to them, they can basically do nothing with their house. That's an option. Sell it today. That's the traditional, you know, put it up for sale, or maybe they're going to do a for sale by owner. They could rent it out themselves traditionally, either themselves as a landlord or get a property manager. And then they could sell it in the future, either traditionally with a realtor or for sale by owner. Or they could work with you. So those are the options that they have. And what we're going to do is you want to compare the last three and find out if they were to do the last three, which one's going to put more money in their pocket at the end of the deal. Okay. So when it comes to calculating net profit, there's two main elements that you need to look at. Income, obviously, that comes from the rental income and the selling price of the home. And expenses, which are the various costs associated with the renting and the selling of the property. Now, in order to increase net profit, you either need to increase the income, decrease the expenditures, or a combination of both. So just as in business, it's hard to predict the future income, meaning it's hard to predict the future selling price of the home. There's so many external variables that can come into play 2 or 3 years from now that we don't even know. But it's a lot easier to control or eliminate some or many of the expenses. So if by reducing the expenses, we can affect the net profit easier. So that act alone in reducing the cost will have a big impact on increasing the net profit, on how much money the homeowner is going to put in their pocket. And I keep reiterating that every time I talk to the homeowner, because at the end of the day, you know, it's about how much money do you get to put in your pocket. So an example, a lady named Bola and her husband was a doctor. They got not reloaded, but relocated to Saskatchewan. They had their home on the market for 4 months, no offers. They didn't want to be landlords, long distance landlords, so she contacted me. So during those 3 years, they had 0 missed payments. So the rent was paid on time every single month for 36 months. They paid absolutely 0 in repairs and maintenance. They had 0 property management expense coming off the rent. They didn't have to pay realtor commission, and there was 0 price negotiations when it came time to purchase the property. So when the home sold, she saved $13,200 on what would have been potentially typical repairs and maintenance and property management fees that she didn't have to pay. She saved between $15,000 to $30,000 on negotiation, because on your average home, you know, typically people are going to negotiate on the purchase price. So there was no price negotiation. She didn't have to pay a realtor. That saved her 16 grand. The 3 years of mortgage pay down, that put another 30 grand in her pocket of equity. So when it all came to the end, she added an extra $74,000 to $89,000 into her pocket over and above what she would have made if she just sold her home today. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to actually run through the three comparisons. Remember, you've got your sell now, your rent, then sell, and then work with you. Okay, those are the three comparisons. And we typically do a side-by-side comparison. Now, I remember when I first started out, I didn't do any of these comparisons at all. I just went with a blank piece of paper. And I'm an introvert, so I'm like sweating anyway, nervous. And first, one of the first meetings with the homeowner, you forget everything you're supposed to say. You forget what you're supposed to be doing. You say, oh, there's today's price, your home is this. Let's say it over 3 years, it appreciates to this. But then when you sell it, you're probably going to sell it for this. And then, oh, you got to pay a realtor this. It's going to sit vacant for this. Like, I'm writing these numbers down, trying to show the homeowner and try to get to a point where the number is less than what his home is worth today. But then you forget half the stuff you're doing. Like at the very beginning, I would be forgetting everything. So I eventually had to go with a pre-planned something that the stuff was on a document, so I didn't have to remember what I was supposed to be talking about. It's like, oh yeah, you got to put in this number, got to put in this number, got to put in this number. But I remember the early days when it was just a blank piece of paper, and I'm going there trying to remember from my training what I'm supposed to say and what numbers I'm supposed to put in there. And God, there's all I can tell you is there are homeowners out there that are in such a bad way that no matter how bad you are at presenting and negotiating, they'll say yes. So even I got to the numbers I wanted, but I was so bad. I probably confused the hell out of them, but they said yes anyway, because you never know what position the homeowners are actually in. So you meet enough homeowners, you do enough of these things, you're going to get somebody to say yes, doesn't matter how bad you are. And I'll be the first to attest to that. So side-by-side comparisons, the amount of money that they would make if they sold their home today, rented it out, then sold it in the future, or worked with you and maybe you have one option, you only have one option, or maybe you have a couple different options. I'll show you later on that I have a couple different options I provide the homeowner. So first thing you need to do is calculate the income and the expenses. So where they make their income, obviously selling the house and renting the house. The expenses are the costs associated with getting it show ready and then putting it on the market. It will sit vacant, commissions to sell the property, things like that. And costs associated with renting out the property, repairs and maintenance, vacancy, turnover, property management fees if there are any, paying the mortgage and all of the utilities when it is vacant. Okay, so here's just a snapshot of one of the spreadsheets, one of the early spreadsheets I would use. So you can see in there, there's 4 different choices. The first one is the rent, then sell. So that's the basic standard. You go out and rent it yourself, and then you hire a realtor and you sell it yourself. Choice number 4 on the far right, that's basically your sell now. If you're just going to sell the house today yourself or with a realtor. We added this choice 2 in here. This was like a do-it-yourself. So we could set up and structure the rent own for you, but you're going to do all the work. You're going to manage it yourself. We're just going to do all the legal stuff, make sure it's done properly and structured properly. So, you're protected in liability and things like that, using the right contracts. And we would set it up for a fee. We didn't really, I can tell you right now, with this one, we were charging an upfront fee. That obviously we didn't want to do any work until the owner paid us. You're not going to get any owners paying you an upfront fee. Learned that one. We tried that one for a while, didn't work. So that was them paying an upfront fee, and we would do all the work to set it up and structure it, like as a consultant, right? As a consultant, because that's what I did for a business. Like I'm not going to do any work till I get paid up front. So it was that same mentality, but homeowners, they're not adept to paying for anything until the house is sold. So that option actually didn't work so well. But here's your traditional rent own with me and no work on your part. Basically where our company comes in, lease options it from them, and then we find the tenant buyer and we do all the work for the whole 3 years. So we tried these two options. Like this is the traditional one, number 3. We always did number 3. I threw in this one here just to see if any homeowners would bite, just a different choice, right? Because they're going to make a lot more money. But nobody was willing to come out of pocket up front. So you can see the initial purchase price, estimated fair market value, 36-month term. We factored a 2% appreciation, which brought it to this number at the end of 36 months. And you can see on the traditional, or choice 4, the traditional sell, you're probably going to sell it for about $390 if it's worth $400,000. Choice 1, rent it out and then sell it in the future. So if it's in the future, if it's worth $424, you might sell it for $410. And then ours, $380,000. And then you look at these, it's like, well, yours is less than you have it today. Typically when we actually do this, I never put this number in for the homeowner until the end. I wait till the end and then we put it in and show them how much money they make. So this is this is traditionally, the money that comes in from selling the home, right? So what we estimate they'll actually, what the selling price of the home will be. And renting it over the term, monthly rent, $2,000 fair market rent if they just rent it themselves. And choice 3, if they work with us, I'll pay them $1,800 a month rent. You can see they have to allow for vacancy. 8.3% is basically 1 month vacancy in the year. So you get your typical tenant, stays a year, leaves, and when they leave, you go in, you fix it up, you spend a little bit of money, you paint the place, furnace cleaning, maybe new carpet cleaning. You want it looking very good. Anybody that just has one tenant move out and moves the next person in the next day and does nothing with the property is going to end up with a very poor looking property very quickly, because you're not going to attract the level of tenants will typically deteriorate, because when they go and look at the place, they can see it's wore down every time because there's not a fresh coat of paint on it. If you go to these places that are well run, like in Edmonton, the Boardwalk, as soon as somebody moves out, they've got a team in there and they're repainting the entire place. Gets repainted, fixed up, but they have like a huge team and they can do it in a matter of a day or 2 days. But most homeowners don't have that luxury of having a huge team of specialists that can come in and do everything that needs to get done. So we factor in 8.3% for vacancy. So 2,000 a month times 36 months is 72 grand, less the vacancy allowance. So their total effective income is 66,000. Work with me, they get 1,800 a month. I pay them 1,800 a month, but there's no vacancy. So you can see there's not a whole lot of difference in the income between the rent, if they're just renting it normally and you add in a vacancy, and renting it to us, okay? I'm only focusing on 1, 3, and 4. Number 4, obviously, if they're just selling it today, there's no rental. Here you can see the orange. This is the fee that we charge them just to set it up as a consultant. But like I said, never get anybody to bite to pay that up front. So I'm not even going to really talk about option 2. So now we're getting into the costs. This is the selling costs. So like I said, if you had a piece of paper, like you're going to get this document, so you can create your own little document, whether it's just a piece of paper that you're going to write in, but at least you'll have things that you need to take into consideration when you're meeting with a homeowner and talking about the income and the expenditures. Or you can create yourself a little spreadsheet. So a word of advice, because I tried this as well and does not work, because an overloaded mind is a mind that is too confused. So we used to actually go through the spreadsheet with the homeowner, and there was just too much stuff that they just couldn't focus on anything, and we weren't able to get enough homeowners to say yes. So I stopped using the spreadsheet to go through stuff with the homeowner, but I still use the spreadsheet to enter information in to create just sort of the end result. And I just show the homeowner the end result right now. Okay, so here, selling today, so sell now. Maybe they got to spend $3,000 to get a show ready. They're going to spend $15,700 on realtors. I left in advertising costs, but typically if they're using a realtor, they're not paying advertising costs. Legal costs, you can see it's going to cost around $22,000 there if they're just selling it today. If they're going to rent it out, then sell it in the future. Well, after the third tenant leaves and now they're going to get a show ready, they're going to spend a little bit more money on it, so that, yeah, they're going to repaint the entire place, furnaces cleaned, and then they may have to do some flooring because 3 years of tenants and that they had kids or pets. You may have to change some carpets. You may have to change some light fixtures, some things like that. So $6,000 you're going to invest to get a show ready. It's going to sit vacant for 5 months while you're getting it ready and it's up for sale and you're waiting for a buyer. So you have that lost income. Remember, it was $2,000 a month. So you're going to lose that. That goes into the selling costs, the realtor fees and legal fees. So they're looking at a $33,000 hit. And with us, it's just $2,000 they'll pay in legal fees. Now, you remember on that spreadsheet, I said I charge $200 a month for property management fees, but we only collect it at the end if and only if we buy the property is sold. That $200 a month times 36 months, $7,200. So that's actually in the selling costs here. Okay, so there's my $7,200 that's coming to me for my property management. It gets factored into the selling costs. So you can see the difference in the expenses. Like, we've really reduced the amount of expenses. That's what our focus is on, is working with us, because there's not going to be vacancies, repairs, maintenance, and realtor fees, things like that. We drastically reduce the expenses to bring up the net income to them. And these are the operating expenses. So for rental, I'm not going to go through each one, but you've got your property taxes per year, insurance per year, repairs and maintenance per year. So that's things that you do to the property throughout the year, plus when they leave for repainting, the tenant leaves and you get tenant changeover. You put in the utility stuff, even though the tenant pays the utilities, but when it sits vacant for that 1 month, you have to pay the utilities. So we need to know those costs. Same with lawn or snow removal, because if they leave during the summer, you got to pay the local kids, or you got to do it yourself to mow the lawn, and you got to drive there, and your time is valuable. So we'll put in $50 there. Advertising, if you're going to pay to put it on some sites to advertise it. For rent, pest control, and there's the monthly debt servicing. So that would be the mortgage payment. So you can see in option 1, you're looking at $80,000 over the 3-year term for operating expenses. Option 4, this is selling it today. So you only get half the year's rent, half the year's insurance, maybe a little bit of spruce up, and you only have 6 months worth of 6 months worth of mortgage payment. So the operating expenses for those 6 months while you're getting it ready and you get it on the market and you're selling it are pretty low. And option 3, working with us, you can see they have to pay the taxes, they have to pay the insurance. They're probably going to pay something towards their not legal, but accounting, because now that they're renting it out, it's considered a business, so their taxes might be a little bit more complicated. So now maybe they have to hire somebody to do their taxes, and of course the mortgage amount. So you can see that your expenses are $65,334. And of course their mortgage payout. So if they're selling it today, basically, so it's selling within 6 months, the mortgage payout is $320,000. Plus they're going to have 3 months, at least 3 months of mortgage penalty to pay it out if they're breaking the mortgage. So here's how much they'd have to pay the bank to get out of the mortgage. Choice 1, renting it and then selling it in the future. That's 36 months, plus it takes another 5 to 6 months. So there's a little bit more mortgage pay down, $293,000. And working with us, this is what their mortgage payout would be. So here's basically the bottom line numbers. So all of that just leads up to this component here. And this is really the crux of the information. This is sort of the summary of how much money the owner makes. If you look at the very bottom line, so if they just sell it today, it looks like the owner is going to get $30,770 will be their net profit, their estimated profit out of it. If they rent it out, then sell it, having to deal with all the issues, $68,171. And that's at a sale price of $410. Selling it to us at $380 and renting it to us for $1,800. Their net profit or their bottom line is $72,484. So they're going to make more money working with us with less risks, less headaches, and less potential instances where things could go really bad. Because when you're dealing with tenants, you never know what you're going to get. When you're dealing with people in a rent-own, the tenant buyers that come into these deals with money, I can tell you from experience, when these people are putting that much money up front, you're generally dealing with a lot high-level individuals, high-quality people who want to buy this property. So you do not have the same type of issues that you would have dealing with a tenant. So you can see in this scenario, the homeowner is going to make a little bit more money working with you, and you buying the property at $380 in the future and renting it out at $1,800, compared to them just putting it on the market at $2,000 rent and selling it in the future, trying to sell it in the future at $424. That of course makes some assumptions, right? The assumptions are that you factor in the vacancy, the repairs and maintenance, things like that, because all homeowners will come back and say, well, my place is never going to be vacant, or, you know, I never spend $2,000 a month on my property, or $2,000 a year on my property doing repairs and maintenance, or, you know, my place will sell for top dollar. It's, you know, I don't have to discount it by, you know, 3 to 5%. You know, I was going to sell it for my asking price, because you got two ends of the spectrum. You've got the fantasy world where it's nothing but unicorns and rainbows and Lucky Charms, where everything is perfect, nothing ever goes wrong. The day you list your property, 5 minutes later it's sold for more than you asked for it. The tenants that you put in there, when they leave, the place looks better than when they moved in. Then you get the other end, which is hell. Hellish tenant destroys your property, and you're lucky if you can actually sell it. Usually it's somewhere in between, and that in between is realism. So realistically, we factor in, you know, a month of vacancy. Realistically, we put in for repairs and maintenance every year. You know, that's realism. But you do get, I was on the phone with a client, and they're accountants, so no offense to any accountants, but they're detailed, number oriented. You know, the place is just, so I have some generalizations. You know, on average, if the house sells, it's going to be at 95% of the asking price, and typically, you know, there's going to be vacancies, and you're going to spend some money. And they came back and said, well, ours is like 5 years old, and you know, it was not vacant, and we didn't have to put any money into it. And I said, well, so is it vacant now? And they said, well, the tenant's not paying. Well, okay, so it's vacant. They've got it up for sale, and they've dropped the price already. So, okay, so you've already had to drop the price from what you initially listed it for. So even now, selling it, if you were to compare it against the original price, whatever you sell it for could be like 95% of the original price. So you're going to get those homeowners. So at the end of the day, the bottom line, the less you show the homeowner, the better. Basically, but you need to compare apples to apples. So you need to show them how much money they're going to make working with you, and you need to be able to justify it or back it up. And that's the rest of the spreadsheet, in case they ever come to you and say, well, how does that work? Like, where do those numbers come from? But right now, the people that are coming to me through my marketing, because they watch a 30-minute video, it goes into, explains a lot of stuff. And when I'm doing my presentation, my 20-minute presentation over the phone with them, I just email them a copy of my one page that highlights the information, says, okay, well, here's your options. Here's the assumptions I make, and here's your options. And you let me know. So I've refined mine even more. I use a Mac, so all that I do, that what you just saw there, that's an Excel spreadsheet. I don't have Excel on mine. I have numbers, and so I converted it to numbers. But if you try to convert it back, it doesn't work very well. So I have refined it in numbers, and I keep messing with it. I just messed with it again today. I keep changing it slightly, keep trying to perfect my own version of it. That was one of my versions, but like I just keep going further and further, but doing it just on my own personal situation. So this is the only piece that I send the homeowner right now, and you can see I've got multiple lines and stuff. So I'll just start. This is from that last one that you just saw. I don't think I can go back. Yeah. Anyway, so I took the information from that sheet that you just saw, and I made a new sheet, and I just arranged it different. So if you look down the bottom, like my assumptions are right here. Traditional sale, I should say, or rent then sell, is going to be 95% of fair market value. So whatever this fair market value is, the selling price, the estimated selling price is 95% on a traditional sale here. And also, if in 3 years, if this appreciates, it's going to be, the selling price is going to be 95%. That's my assumption. Also, assumption of one month of vacancy for every year, an assumption of $2,000 a year in repairs and maintenance, an assumption that they're going to spend at least $5,000 getting the place show ready after they've had 3 years of tenants living in it, and an assumption that it's going to appreciate at 2% a year. So obviously this looks similar. Traditional sell now, I just organized a little differently. So here's if they were to sell it now, you know, $350. It's going to take 6 months from start to finish. Purchase price $350, 95% of that. The monthly expenses, which are from a different sheet. So over the 6 months, they're going to have to sink $2,440 into it. The total selling costs for realtors and things like that, $15,000. The total mortgage payout. So the equity they get from the sale is this purple box minus the payout is this number. Then of course you got to factor in how much it's going to cost them to transact the deal, and then the proceeds based on no appreciation. So traditionally sell now, there's not going to be appreciation. So these two numbers are the same. So when I go through this with a homeowner, I get them to focus only on this green line and this blue line. Because I built this for no appreciation, but I've set it up so that if there's appreciation, I'm going to share it with the homeowner. It's just, this is only my personal model. I am not telling anybody to do this. You notice that last spreadsheet, I did not do anything like this. I'm moving more towards a service-based model where I do this as a service as opposed to the investor model. I taught you the investor model. I'm doing it more as a service-based model, just trying to get more deals. I'd rather do a lot more deals, make less money on each deal, but pump out a lot more deals. That's my philosophy. So this looks very similar. Rent then sell, all the normal stuff. Equity, the cost of the rentals and the selling, and then what the proceeds are going to be if there's no appreciation. And then obviously if there's appreciation, that's how much they would actually make. Option one is my guaranteed option. That's where my company guarantees to pay the rent even if the tenant stops paying. So this option, I assume all the risk, but in doing so, I also get a bigger reward. So my purchase price is on a $350,000 property. My purchase price would be $322,143. I'm only paying $1,400 rent when fair market rent $1,600. And the homeowner's expenses are actually pretty low, so they're still cash flowing $218 a month. These are selling expenses. So net profit, if with no appreciation to the homeowner, is $121. If there is appreciation, they can get up to $130,000. I'm only going to give them 40% of the appreciation. I'm going to keep the other 60 because remember, I take the risks in doing this. Option two, I do all the work. I just don't guarantee the rent payment. So the homeowner obviously makes more money because I give them a little bit higher purchase price and a little bit $100 more in rent. So the green here, they would make $132 instead of the $121 or $145 if it appreciated. And option three basically is where I am just truly a service. I'm setting it up and structuring it. The homeowner is actually being the property manager. They have to deal with the stuff on a regular basis. But I'm the guy that sets it up and structures it as like a consultant, but I do it without charging the money up front. And I do it by just structuring it like I normally would, but I just pay 100% of the proceeds of the appreciation to the homeowner, but they're the one truly managing it during the term. So these are the three options. The majority of the people that are interested are going with option two because none of them want to do any work, but they want to have more money than option one gives them. So, and I planned it this way. I don't want to do as very many option ones personally. I just don't want to have that stress of having to pay properties in case a tenant does go bad, or, I have a hard time getting them out if they lose their job or something. I would much rather do option two where I do everything, but I just don't guarantee the payment. So this is my own personal service-based strategy. Like I said, I just showing you this. This is how I'm structuring mine. The previous one is just your basic investor model. You show the homeowner they're going to make more money working with you, and you get it at a good price. So, and this accompanies it. This is what they get. So option 1, option 2, option 3. It's just the services that I offer them. Option 1, obviously the guaranteed rent payment is the only one in option 1. Option 2, they get all the same services except the guaranteed rent. And option 3, you can see that the homeowner is doing all the stuff with the X, which is all the stuff right on the right around the property. So I'm just going to quickly run through just part of a presentation for my that I show the homeowners. So when they opt into my stuff, this is just a small segment of what they would see in the video. So just some bullet points. They can make up to 60,000. This is like salesy stuff. Drastically reduces the rental and selling expenses. Eliminate vacancies. These are all things that the program offers them. So you doing a rent to own, or these are all things that you're basically offering to the homeowner. When you're doing a lease option, when you're lease optioning their property, these are all things that you're offering them. Repairs and maintenance up to $1,000, quality tenants. And a lot of you might recognize these from when we actually did the marketing in the ads, like the ad that I put up on the screen that I created. It's very similar. Management handled for you, set up, structured, contracts looked after. Home purchased at a guaranteed price. Here's how it works. You'll see that looks a little familiar. We have the 3 options: guaranteed services, that we do it for you, and then we help you do it. So proper setup and structure, attract quality tenant buyers. These are all the services they get from us. Manage the process during the term, forward the paperwork to the lawyer broker. So who's this for? Anyone that has a home for sale, not getting any offers. Anyone who bought a second house and has not been able to sell their current home. Works for anyone who has been relocated for their job and their home hasn't sold and they don't want to be a long distance landlord. Works for anyone who can't afford to sell their home because they'll lose their initial down payment from selling expenses. So that's going to be everyone that's bought in the last 5 years for 5% down. And I tell you, there's going to be a lot of those. This works for anyone who can't afford their mortgage any longer and may have started missing payments. And this works for anyone who is currently renting their home and is getting tired of being a landlord. So that's who this program is for. Number one reason people don't get started. Now you might be thinking you can't get started because you aren't confident you can do this on your own. Well, here's why that's a mistake and will hold you back from success. You won't be doing it on your own. We can provide you with all the specialized knowledge, expertise, and support you need from start to finish. So do you want to take your home selling to the next level? Click the button and then contact. So that's just a small clip of some of the slides from the video that the homeowners opt in to watch. That's it. Yeah. All right. So that is presenting and negotiation. I know there seem to be a lot of stuff in there, but to boil it down simple is you need to use the traditional expenses that someone would have in selling their home or renting their home and use that to reduce the price of the property that you're going to get, the price that you're going to get the property for. So the spreadsheet just sort of does it for you. But when you had to do it manually, like I did at the very beginning, and you start, okay, well, the place is worth 400 today. Okay, if it appreciates over the next 3 years, maybe it'll be worth 440. But then, you know, you're going to sell it. That's probably going to be 95% of 440. And then you actually have to do the math, figure that, whatever that number is. Oh, then you're, you know, it's going to sit for 5 months. You got to pay, you know, got to pay all the mortgage tax, insurance, all the utilities. That's probably going to be another 10 grand. Then you got the realtor fees. That's going to be another 16 grand. And you just keep going down and down. You get a number and just hope that number is, you know, below the fair market value today, which typically it is, because you probably would have I practiced this before I went to the homeowner, because I had a good idea I knew what they were asking for the property, and I knew what fair market value was because I typically got realtor comps before I went. So, I would just do it manually out in the driveway or in the house, just writing it down on a piece of paper. And like I said, even as bad as I was, I still managed to get one a month. So you never know how bad a homeowner situation is. But I did a one a month for 24 months straight, took some time off from doing them, and then ended up doing another 30, not much longer after that, different time period. So, and doing more than one a month, I was just getting the properties and filling them. That was kind of my role. So, yeah. So even if you're an introvert like me, it's terrible at presenting, and I can't negotiate. Like, I've seen negotiating strategies, and I can't do any of that stuff. I can't. I just don't put my effort into it. It's like I'm just me. It's like I'll present you the information. It's like, hey, you're going to make more money working with me, and less stress, less headaches. You have to do less. Like option 2 here, you're gonna make more money working with me, and you don't have to do anything. You just sit back and cash your check. Like, what's the hurdle? And the hurdle seems to be right now is that I don't have. So it's a lot of times it's very difficult to have tenant buyers and homeowners lined up perfectly so that as soon as you get a tenant buyer that's ready, like the minute they're ready to go, you've got a property that meets their needs. Typically you have one and you're always searching for the other. So the issue with the homeowners right now, why I don't have more yeses is I say, well, I need, just like a realtor needs time to get a buyer, I need time to, just because I have buyers doesn't mean they want your house. I need time to market your property and find a buyer as well. So I need like 3 to 4 months as well to get somebody into the property. And that seems to be, right now, that seems to be the sticking point to why I don't have more people saying yes. So starting next week, I'm going to do a big blitz on doing a lot more marketing in the Edmonton area for tenant buyers and try to get quite a few going through the qualification process every single week. And then it'll be much easier when I have the same number of tenant buyers coming in every week that I have homeowners coming in right now. So I'll implement the same strategy for tenant buyers that I have for homeowners. I'll market to them. I'll drive them to a site, get them to provide me the information, and then contact them and, get a percentage of them to actually go through the process. That's the plan. So yeah, so now we'll go back to, so I am done. So I'm going to go back and read any questions that I might have missed out on. Sheldon was the last one, I think, with a 12,500 option, part of the down payment. Yes. Seller who can't find a tenant buyer. Why should I pay you? I did that one. Chris, what if they don't have any money? I explained that one. If they have anything of value, tell them to sell it and bring you the cash. That's exactly what you do, Michael. If they say, oh, my car's worth 12,000, why don't you just take it on trade? It's like, okay, well, if you can get 12,000 for it, then just sell it right now and get me the cash. Otherwise, I'll give you 7 or 8 for it, because then I have to go turn around and sell it, and the chances of me getting 12,000 are going to be pretty slim. So I need to take the risk and hoping I'm going to at least get my 8 grand out of it. So I'm only going to credit you 8 grand. Right on, Michael. Make them do the work. Exactly. Nathan, do you have that type of document? I don't know when you put that comment in there, Nathan. Can you just let me know what type of document you're referring to? I'm not sure when in the presentation you you sent that. Sheldon, do you know any mortgage brokers that will help people out after the program to purchase a house? Only found a few brokers dealt with rent-own tenants. Yeah, I'll give you my mortgage broker's name too. She deals with investors all over Canada, and it's been doing rent-own since 2009. We started doing rent-owns together actually, and I must have brought her at least 20 or 30 different investors to do rent-own. So what I'll do is I will actually type after the video. I will put her website address in the comment field, and her website address, and you guys, and I'll send her an email as well. So I emailed the credit coach yesterday and let him know that I gave out his contact information. I'll email her as well and let her know that I gave out her contact information. But she works with clients right across the country, investors right across the country. And I mean, she does a lot of business. She owns her own brokerage, so she has people that work for her as well. But she deals with a lot of people that come through the rent-own program. So she knows the ins and outs like the back of her hand, like which ones, how to actually package it together, how to present it, who to present it to, based on the information that's in there, which ones, you know, after she gets it and then massages it like they do, is like, okay, which one can I send it to and which ones do I need to avoid sending it to and stuff like that. She's amazing. She's amazing. So I'll give you that information. The one where you were writing down the numbers when doing the presentation for the homeowner. Oh, Nathan, that was just a piece of paper. I just took a blank piece of paper, and then I would just write it down. I didn't actually make anything. The first time I made something was like a spreadsheet, but from the information, the snapshots of all these slides, you can easily make your own because all the information's there. Just take the information there and just put it on a Word document so you have it, so that you'd be able to follow along and go through the information with them. But yeah, when I was doing it, when I first started, it was just a blank piece of paper. I'm trying to remember the stuff, and then if I did draft something up on Word, I never bothered to keep it. I just would have made it once and photocopied it and just kept taking it with me. Back when I didn't keep every single document that I create like I do now. When I create them, I don't, half the time I can't find them in my computer anymore. I don't know where they are. Does anybody else have any questions on presenting or negotiating to the homeowner? So the objective obviously is to, it has to be a winning situation for the homeowner. So you have to prove to them that they're going to make more money by doing less work and taking less risks. When I say less risks, I mean that the chance that that somebody's going to destroy their property diminishes. The having to deal with the fixing things under $1,000, that's just eliminated. The risk of the price, not selling for that price, eliminated, things like that. So at the end of the day, if you can show them that you're going to make more money, and those numbers that you put in there, that 1,800 and that 380,000, whatever it is, those are just numbers. You can change those if you want, because that the document that I'll send you, where you can plan out how much money you make on a sandwich lease option, before you even meet the homeowner, you've probably run that scenario 10 different times with 10 different numbers, trying to say, okay, if I only get it for this price, how much money can I make? If I only get it for this, how much money can I make? So basically, you're going to run that scenario a bunch of times and figure, okay, I know this is my this is my ceiling. I can't go any higher than this, because if I know if I go any higher than this, I'm just not going to make enough money to make it worth my while. And for me, that is around $10,000 a year. So on a 3-year deal, I want to make at least 30 grand. And that's really a low end lease option. 30 grand with no risk. That's pretty low end. So that's kind of my bottom line that I'm looking to make of it. The ones where I don't actually have to do all the work, I'm willing to take less, because I'm just doing the stuff like at the beginning and at the end, and all the stuff in between, not really doing much of anything. So I'm okay making less there. But if I'm actually going to do the work, I want to make sure I'm getting at least 30 grand for 3 years. So 10 grand a year on average per deal. Used to make a lot more, but like I said, I'd rather do more deals and make less money per deal. So that's just my my mindset right now. Any other questions about the presentation, how to present to the homeowner? Like I really, like I said, I did everything I'm doing here. I designed for myself because I'm not a negotiator and I suck at presenting. So I had to make it simple, and I needed the presentation to actually do the negotiating for me. So I needed it to look like, well, this is pretty much a no-brainer to the homeowner. Why wouldn't you work with me and make $132,000 and not do anything and not have to stress and not be out of pocket any money, or do it yourself, self-manage it, and then deal with getting it, fixing it up at the end and selling it for $111,000. Here, you don't have to do anything or worry about any of that stuff. So it makes sense for you to do that, Mr. and Mrs. Homeowner. And yeah, so I needed the negotiation part to be built right in the presentation. Now, like a mentor of mine, actually I got a couple mentors, and they're both negotiators. They are sales, like they can negotiate like nobody else. And they're two completely opposite types of negotiators. One's more of a country hick, and the other one's more, I don't know how to describe him. He's a ex-fighter pilot from the Navy or Air Force in the U.S. So completely different styles, but both hugely successful in just how they approach the whole negotiation. They can, and their grasp on NLP and being able to get people to do things when they're negotiating, it's amazing watching them work. Me, not so much. I just want to hear, this is good for you, take it. That's my negotiation. Sheldon, what was the income rebate of $200 for? So Sheldon, I think you're talking about this $7,200 here, $200 a month for 36 months. And realistically, it's just another way for me to get the home, to reduce the actual price of the home, because I'm going to buy the home in this scenario. I'm going to buy the home at $329,572, but then 72, like that $200 a month is built in here, $7,200. Then that $7,200 actually comes off this purchase price, and it goes even lower. So how I justify that to the homeowner, I tell them that, this $200 a month, it's harder for me to justify it here. I just say it's here. I just tell them it's for closing on the deal at the end. Here I say it's for managing the whole process. So we charge $200 a month, every single month to manage the entire process. But unlike a property manager who takes it off the rent, I know that most homeowners can't afford for me to take $200 off their rent. So I'm going to collect it at the end, but I'm only going to get that money if the house is sold. So that's incentive for me to make sure that I put the right people in there to sell the house, because I don't like to work for free, and that I want that $7,200. But I only get that $7,200 if I sell the home at the end, or buy the home, whatever, however you want to phrase it. Because technically you'll be buying it, but it's the tenants who are actually buying it. So I only get to collect that money at the end if the place, if your house is sold. So it's $200 a month for property management fees, or management fees, whatever you want to call it. Technically, you're not supposed to call it property management fees if you're not a licensed property manager. But it's management fees of the process, $200 a month, but you only get it if the house sells. Did that answer your question, Sheldon? Hopefully that answered your question. Katie says it's a lot of information, but most of it's clear. Yeah, it's all this stuff that's in there is really just to show the homeowner that there's a lot that actually goes into that. Most homeowners don't think of it. Even if they're selling their home today, they said, oh, I'm going to put it on the market for $400,000, and my payout of my mortgage $300. Is like, I'm going to make $100,000. So they didn't factor in that they probably have to drop the price. They probably have to negotiate, so that selling it for $400 now becomes accepting an offer of $380. Then it's like, okay, if it's vacant, well, it's going to sit probably 5 months before from the time it goes up for sale to the time they get their money. So they got to pay that. And then they got to pay a realtor. So next thing they know, they're only putting $50,000 cash in their pocket, because that's all that's left after paying everything. And here they thought, all they think about is that the difference between 400 and 300. That's all they think about. All that other stuff they don't think about. So your objective is to make them actually think about all those things, and to show them, well, all this stuff has to be accounted for. So if you work with me, you're just going to put more money in your pocket, because we can help reduce a lot of those expenditures. So I think that's it for me. So if nobody has any other questions, we'll wrap it up. Same time tomorrow evening, we are going through setting up the whole structure. So it's a big, like 30,000 foot overview of how you structure the whole thing between the tenant, the owner, yourself, your different companies, and then what agreements you use in which situation. And then, so we'll break that all down, give you the big 30,000 overview, and then we'll list all of the different agreements that you would need for each situation, and what things that you need to make sure are in various agreements. So that's what we'll go through tomorrow evening. So I want to thank everybody for joining me again tonight, and have yourself a great evening. If you haven't done so, just start posting some ads, getting some action. Tomorrow night we'll go through setting up and structuring the arrangement, the deal properly, and what contracts to use, and what to make sure is in each contract. All right. So that's it for me. When I'm done, of course, I will upload the PDF. I will also document the mortgage broker's contact information, and so that everyone has access to a mortgage broker that knows how to do this. All right, so everyone take care, have a great night, and I'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks.